Once again, welcome back to Rhythm and Resilience and day 11. And I'm curious of what little nuggets or pearls did you keep throughout the weekend that helped you navigate this fourth or fifth week or whatever we are in COVID-19. And so I'm really curious about that. So feel free to share that in the chat. Today I want to start with a quote, water your imagination. I've been thinking about that quote off and on throughout the weekend and really appreciated that insight that we got from young Sonia Tolley last week. So anyhow, today, Dr. Carolina, I can't even say your last name, so I'm going to say Dr. Carolina is joining us. She's board certified by the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology in both adult and geriatric psychiatry. She was born and raised in Colombia, where she attended medical school. She moved to the United States for postgraduate training in general psychiatry. She then pursued a fellowship in geriatric psychiatry. After her postgraduate training, she moved to Kansas City with her husband and 2 children and is happily settled. Thank God, she loves Kansas City. She opened her practice in 2011 and enjoys working with a variety of patients from the Midwest. And Dr. Carolina, hey, welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us from Colombia.
Yes. Yeah, so we are stranded here in a very beautiful place. I don't know if people can see, but at least we have a very good view.
That is a nice view. Now, how long have you guys been stranded there?
So we came for vacation and visiting family on March 7th, and we arrived at the place that I'm at since the 16th of March, and the country has been in a lockdown since, or soon thereafter. A lockdown meaning there's no national flights or international flights, and everybody has a stay-home order since like the 18th of March. It's a lot more stringent than it is back in Kansas City and than it is actually everywhere in the States. So people over 70 have been mandated to stay home since then until May 31st. And they really are supposed to just stay in, and kids are too. So we have been stranded here for a little bit. It's home for my mom, so we feel like we're at home, but there's been a little bit of challenges too, right? We're trying to get the kids online to their schools, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, what about food? Are you at a resort? Are you at a home?
No, this is my mom lives in 2 different places. So she lives at the coast and she lives in Bogotá. This is her home at the coast in a place called Santa Marta. Mm-hmm. So we're home. We can get groceries. We're allowed to get groceries once a week. So we go to I've gone to the grocery shop about twice or 3 times in the whole time that we've been here. And we're definitely not having any problems with finding food. It's just that you have to plan intelligently. But we've created a good community here. Everybody that lives here has helped each other. So if somebody goes out and buys and is going to grocery shop, they let everybody else know. So if we need anything, we can ask them too.
And your husband's a physician as well, correct?
Right. He's a radiologist. He's back in Kansas City. He's, he does chest radiology. So this is a time where he's working a good amount with all the COVID-19 patients. He works at St. Luke's on the Plaza.
And so was he with you? Did he get out by the grace of God or what?
So kind of. So we were together in Colombia. We had parted. He was at his parents', which is a different place. And when we came down to the coast, we realized that the country is going to be in a lockdown and people would be scrambling for flights, that kind of thing. The kids and I, my husband and I felt that the kids and I would be safe where I am and fine, and maybe we thought it wouldn't be as long as it's gonna be, but he had to return, so he was able to get back 1 or 2 days before the lockdown.
Wow. Well, Go ahead.
Yeah, he's been working from home like 70% of the time, and then the rest of the time he's been at the hospital.
So it's a whole nother can of worms for you. Even though it's a beautiful place there, I'm sure you miss some routine.
Yes, we miss home and we miss their dad.
And the pets.
Yeah.
And
Well,
our pet.
and your pets. Now, you have 2 children, is that correct?
Yes, I have a boy who's kind of looking at us and listening in. I don't know if you can see him.
Yes.
And then I have a girl who's doing her school right now. Her name is Isabella.
Oh, well, great. Well, thanks for taking time to join us today.
Sure.
Let's dive into a little bit about your story, your neurology as well as psychiatry. I don't think I realized you had a neurology background.
No, I don't, Michelle.
Oh.
It's just that the Board of Neurology and Psychiatry is only one. So I'm board certified by that body, but it's not that I'm a neurologist. I'm a psychiatrist and a geriatric psychiatrist.
Talk to us about a psychiatrist. And, you know, people always say, I have my city psychologist, psychiatrist. And so we're going to talk about the mental well-being continuum today,
Okay.
especially as people are being challenged. So kind of walk us through the mental well-being system. And you notice I did not use the word health. I did use well-being. So
yes. So different people, right? There's a whole variety of people that are in the mental health, mental well-being arena, and I guess it depends on what you're dealing with. In some ways, you know, I guess at the top would be psychiatrists and psychologists. These are people that have doctorate degrees in what they do, right? I, for example, did medical school down here in Colombia, which is a 6-year program, and then did 4 years of psychiatry and 1 year of fellowship of geriatric psychiatry, which means 11 years of postgraduate schooling to do what I do. Psychologists, something similar. They do, I believe, 4 years after college of psychology doctorate degree, and then they usually have to do 1 or 2 years of postdocs. So difference between psychiatry and psychology: psychiatrists are physicians, as I said, and then we evidently can prescribe medications if that's needed. I think both are trained in doing psychotherapy. For sure psychologists have a deeper training in that in this day and age, where psychiatry has been medicalized a little bit more. So I would say psychiatry takes care of mental illness more than, I mean, it also helps with wellness. I'm extremely interested in that part of the field, but it is, if you're suffering of a mental illness, a psychiatrist is where you would want to go. Now, if you're having life challenges, or if you're struggling with, everyday life like everybody else, like we all do, but you're struggling a little bit more than the norm, and you're having trouble figuring it out, a psychologist could be of great help. And then there's other people, right? What are called in lay terms therapists, and therapists come again of all sizes and forms. There's social workers who have, again, usually some 1 or 2 years of postgraduate training for their masters in social work, plus the 4 years of college where they major in social work too, and they can be helpful too. And then there are counselors and life coaches, and those are usually 1 or 2 year programs. But I think that in all of those different sections of the mental health and mental wellness arena, all of them can be helpful. Depends on the severity of what's happening.
Right.
I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you did a great job. And I think for clarity, so psychiatrists Are they the only
Yeah.
ones that can prescribe medications?
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. Psychiatrists are the only ones that can prescribe medications. They're physicians. I guess one other tier of people that could prescribe medications are nurse practitioners that are specialized in psychiatry.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they can prescribe too. Depends on the state.
I would love for you to give us your perspective on mental well-being prior to COVID, kind of the last few years. Our first guest 2 weeks ago on Motivational Monday was John O'Leary. And one thing that has stuck with me, you know, there's the pearl from his, so many things on each one, but his pearl that really stuck with me, even when times were great, economy was phenomenal, market was up, unemployment was down, we still had excessive suicides. So give me your kind of pre and then kind
Definitely.
of during.
So pre-pandemic mental wellness and mental illness scenario, and I am assuming you're asking in the United States and specifically in Kansas City, I'd say, you know, we had been hearing for the past 2 or 3, maybe from the past decade, about depression. I don't want to use the word pandemic today, you know, but there's definitely an increase in depression, increase in suicide. As you know, with your Big Shifts project, there's also an increased suicide rate in the younger population, in the teens and younger adults. And I think it's something that we have all been worrying about in many levels. One, because there's not enough providers at every one of the tiers that I explained previously. I don't think there's enough providers. Two, it's you know, I think it's a subject for debate, but there's research. We're trying to find out why that is, right? Why is it that their depression has spiked? Why is it that suicide rates have spiked? They said specifically in the younger adult population, but again, I would say across all the population as well. One of the things that has been touched upon about that is loneliness. And I imagine, Michelle, because you and I share a few patients and because we've talked about this before, that's not something that strikes you as odd. This is something that I'd say every single one of the people that I see on a daily basis has some difficulty with loneliness. There has been kind of a disintegration a little bit of the social web that we had created before, and people, I don't know if out of having to feel that they need to excel on their own and that they need to be successful on their own. I don't know where it comes from, but what I do know is that people feel very alone. People that are alone and people that aren't alone. You know, I would imagine that also has to do today. These technologies are today with the pandemic. These technologies are definitely taking, you know, bringing us together, just like they are right now. But I would say previously, before the pandemic, the way that we were using technology was a very isolating one. So that's something that's being looked upon too. You know. It all is interconnected. I think that we are looking at the need for exercise more. You know about the sad heart studies that came out from Duke about a decade ago, where they see that exercise and antidepressants do the same for moderate depression. And how much do we need to be prescribing exercise? My thought process there is that everybody should be out and exercising, especially today. So I don't know. I guess the picture before the pandemic for mental wellness and mental illness was the one that we were requiring a lot, and that it will require a lot of resources for a lot of people because people are suffering a lot.
Now, what are you noticing right now? Are you able to see some of your clients from there?
Absolutely. I've worked from day one in prevention. I've reached out to every one of my patients to ask them, especially Michelle, because I see 50% of my people are over 65. But even with the other percentage, I've asked, I've called directly everyone and I've asked them to stay home, to take matters seriously, but also to know that we are available, that we can do this. I've done telemedicine since I started because I come to Colombia quite a bit. So it's not unusual for my patients and it's not unusual for me. But, I wanted to reach out and let them know that I was available and I was here. And the first week or 2 weeks of my stay here, which doesn't coincide with your stay-at-home order, but my first 2 weeks, starting March 17th or 16th, I'd say people were kind of okay. People were cooking and finding things to do and reconnecting over the phone with other people, kind of finding time that they felt that they didn't have before. After those 2 weeks, though, I've seen a spike on two very specific, well, actually three things, but two very specific things. People that suffer from addictions, I'm seeing quite a bit of relapse, unfortunately. And people that have anxiety, I see them having more anxiety and having spikes of anxiety. And I'd say, interestingly, the depression I haven't seen as much as the two prior ones, but still, I'd say it's still there.
For our listeners, this is a great time to ask questions, and I'm going to get to them. But I have a question before I do that. Dr. Carolina, I'm thinking about the word connection. We've had multiple connections. One reason why you're just a rising star. You've been doing this not quite a decade, hard to believe. But I'm telling you, this is a jewel. And she's in Colombia today, but this is a jewel in Kansas City. She's my go-to mental health professional for sure when I need a psychiatry. So how can we emphasize connection and conversation during quarantine?
So what I've done or what I've told people, Michelle, is that you don't want to be only chatting or only messaging or even emailing, although I have a really cool story about a patient who's a writer at Baseline. So who has decided to write a letter to each one of the people that she loves, and she's really found solace with that. She suffers from very severe depression, and that has helped her a lot. But in general, what I've told people, and I think you'll understand this from a biological perspective, is that they need to be at least hearing the person. Human beings are mammals. We're made out of touch. We want to be able to touch, and we've been asked during this pandemic for the next couple months or so, or whenever the restrictions lift, that we don't touch each other, that we don't come together. I imagine it's been very hard for you not to hug people, Michelle, right? So at least if we want to have that prolactin release, I think that we need to be able to hear the other person's voice and find that, find what we find soothing in touch, in tone, if that makes sense. And if we can do what you and I are doing, at least, you are looking at my face, I'm looking at yours, we're mirroring each other's movements. If we can do that, I think it'll be easier to connect than if you just send a WhatsApp message or an iMessenger message. I mean, those are phenomenal for some things, right? They're phenomenal for you and I to be able to schedule these appointments. But if we really want to connect, we have to hear each other.
With my message, because you've been around it with the small changes, big shifts, we talk about celebrating, guiding, connecting, which provide hope. So when you think about where we're at today, what kind of guidance, connecting like this is great. But what other movement and how does exercise impact the neurotransmitters? I mean, just for our listeners today, why is it so stinking important? You said it compares almost equal to medication.
It's not almost equal, it's equal in moderate depression. So the study was one arm one arm or one part of the population of the study was given medication, regular medication, what I would prescribe for somebody with depression, with no other comorbidities, and not a severe depression. We're talking about moderate depression here. And then the other arm of the study was medication free with an aerobic. That's very important to say. Your heart has to be pumping, you have to be huffing, you have to be sweating, right? But aerobic exercise, I believe, I hope I'm not misquoting, it was 4 or 5 times a week. Okay, my son, what I tell my patients is if I'm told 4 or 5 times a week, I won't do it. I say daily, because if I have an out, I'm not someone that likes exercising that much. So if I have an out, I'll say tomorrow. It's better to just stick to it daily. It's also easier to develop a habit that way. But what your question is, what neurotransmitters are involved? And I'd say plenty. We all know that endorphins come when we do exercise. Endorphins, when people feel a quote unquote high from exercise, they come from endorphins, right? That's one. But then it also gives you a little bit of an adrenaline rush. It gives you, that's why people that when they exercise afterwards, they are able to concentrate better. They're able to do things better. You have the ability of thinking better, and all of that has to do with adrenaline. So we're talking about endorphins, we're talking about adrenaline, and then I would say serotonin has to be involved with it as well, because we know that it's through serotonin that people stop being depressed, right? Through blocking the receptors for serotonin so that it increases in your neurotransmitter synapse gap. We know that serotonin is also involved. So all of those things. It also, I think, it helps your body, which is not disconnected from your brain or your mind. It's all one thing. So, if you feel that your body moves better, if you feel that your joints hurt less, if you feel that you can reach things better, if you're stronger, all of those things are also important for your mood.
Yeah, moving. We've said this before. Motion is lotion. Motion is
yes,
lotion.
absolutely.
And as a chiropractor, we love motion. We love the big motions, and we love the little motions between the segments to help the brain regulate. So talk about other things. Talk about food. What's very clear for me the first time we met a few years ago is we have a very similar language.
Right.
So what else besides movement?
So let me finish one thing that I didn't think about when I was talking about movement, because it quite ties with your next question, and it is exercise is extremely important for sleep too. Okay, if you exercise, especially if you exercise in the morning, your sleep patterns are going to be better. Okay, and sleep is absolutely paramount for mood. We all know that. We have a bad night. Next day, you're cranky. It doesn't matter if you're a 9-month-old or if you're a 100-year-old person, right? So sleep is very important, and exercise connected to sleep is important as well. So that's one of the answers to your question as to what else. The other thing is, evidently, what we put in our bodies is very important for our brain. So we have discussed before, Michelle, the importance of having a nutritious diet. I've been working on a project about this for a long time. It's still not out, but it'll be out one day. And then one of the things that I've been thinking about is how to get this message across, because diet is an extremely important thing for people, and it's very near and dear to their heart, and nobody wants to be told what to eat. That's my sense, right? So what I would say is we know a few culprits that make life a little less good. If we eat them too much, at least, right? Because I do think there's joy and gusto in eating, and it's a very important part of my life. I know that it has sustained me throughout the last 3 weeks. I've cooked, every single meal, and it has been something that has been de-stressing and helpful, and feeling like I'm nourishing my family and nourishing myself has been a good thing. But what do we want? We definitely want not a lot of sugar. Okay, we want a lot of colors in that plate. We want, fresh vegetables, and small portions. Small portions. I'm from Colombia, a very different country in many ways than the United States. Even though, like everywhere else in the world, the obesity rates here are also rising and becoming higher. They're nowhere near where we are in the United States, and nowhere near where it is, for example, in countries like Mexico. And one of the biggest differences is the portion size. So I think, much more than banning foods, it's more like, let's eat until we're satiated, and that's it. If you eat more than that, it'll evidently, even if it's good, even if what you're eating is quote unquote good, if you eat more than what your body is able to take in, it'll be harmful. So you definitely want to stay away, or not away completely, but away as much as possible from sugar. You want to hydrate. That's yours. That's what you say, right? You have to hydrate all the time. Somebody's asking if small portions for tacos, carnitas, and I am saying yes, even though we don't do tacos here in Colombia, but yes, small portions for everything. And then more than that, having the consciousness of knowing that what you eat is nourishing you. So if what we eat is Doritos, that's what's coming in. If what you eat is an apple, that's what's coming in. And guess what? The apple's better. That's kind of how it goes. Fresh, the least processed possible, and colorful as much as possible. Here's my daughter who was in school. Isa, say hi. So that's, we talked about sleep, we talked about exercise, talked about food. Socializing is extremely important. We talked about that. How we can do it right now is via the phone, via Zoom, via FaceTime. It's important for people to be connected and to be calling up on loved ones. What else?
What about supplementation? Do you have some supplements that are real important?
Well, I'd say I personally take vitamin C. I've done that. I've taken high doses of vitamin C for about 4 or 5 years. I think it's something that really helps with the immune system. It also helps with having prevention from urinary tract infections, that kind of thing. So it's something I don't necessarily recommend them. As I don't prescribe them very much, but that's something I use personally. I do tell people fish oils, vitamin C, vitamin D, extremely important right now. Vitamin D in Kansas City, there's a very big portion of the population that is vitamin D deficient. We don't get as much sunshine as we have down here, right? And right now with the stay-at-home order, that's also something that I think it's worrisome, because we know that people that have low vitamin D levels are getting infected more. Okay, so vitamin C, vitamin D, fish oil, that's kind of what I know.
Great. Well, just so much good information. Like I said, people are inside more. The good news is people have been moving more in Kansas City. We have, just so you know, you've not been here, but there's lots of people out, especially on a halfway decent today, and it's a pretty decent day today, and so there'll be people out. I want to talk about anxiety. We've kind of touched on loneliness and depression. Mark asked a question about anxiety, and I'm of this mindset, and I just have about 28 years experience, but I believe most people experience anxiety. I know I sure do.
Anxiety is a normal feeling, right? I mean, we feel anxious before a test. Everybody does. We feel anxious when somebody's going to take blood out of our veins. We feel anxious when we're going to jump out I guess we could feel anxious or exhilarated if we're going to jump out, if we're parachuting, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Anxiety is a normal feeling in some ways. The problem is when it comes, when it overtakes you, right? The problem is when it overtakes you, and when it paralyzes you, and when it doesn't let you move. I sometimes tell my patients, anxiety is a motor. It can help you move and do the things that you need to do. If you didn't feel a little bit anxious, maybe you wouldn't wake up and do everything that you feel like you have to do, right? The problem is when it becomes paralyzing, and when it doesn't allow you to do the things that you need to do, and when it doesn't allow you to think, right? Right now, during the pandemic, when I see the spike in anxiety, I see it because there's so many unknowns, right? We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know if we've reached the peak of the curve yet. We don't know if the stay-at-home order, the way that you guys are doing, is enough. We don't know if the way that we are doing is too much. We don't know what we're going to do with the people that work, that live from what they work on a daily basis. There's a lot of unknowns here, and that definitely brings along much more anxiety, I think. What to do about it? Exercise is my first answer. A second thing that we didn't touch upon before is purpose, Michelle. I think that people need to feel like they have a purpose. And as long as you feel, one, that you have a purpose, and two, that you're helping in some way, shape, or form in this situation, your anxiety levels are going to decrease significantly. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a few examples. It's not I guess it could be translated to the United States, but they're personal examples. So here with Lucas and Isabella and my mom, the four of us are staying here at their home, at her home. We have helped a few people. We've helped people that have been a part of our lives the past 20 years. My mom has had this place for the past 20 years, and there's a lot of street vendors, right? We've made a point of helping the street vendors with, they're not able to come out and sell anything right now. It's forbidden. It's mandated that they stay home. So we've given them a 1 month, what they would earn in a month. We've given them, right? So they can have food, so that they can have money to pay their water bill, their electricity, that kind of thing. And the kids were very involved with that. We've also been giving groceries to different people around here that they're in a lot of need, and we can help, right? I feel that anything that you can feel that you're contributing to the world right now would be something that would decrease anxiety, because we know that there is a big problem happening. But at home, if we're fine, which a lot of us are, if we're healthy, if we're very fortunate, if we have food on the table, this feels like a staycation in some way, right? But we know that there's a lot of things that are happening out there. So I would recommend for people to get involved in whatever way they can. Yeah.
I love that. It's much easier if you start giving help out. So a couple of things you said that really sparked some little sparkles in my brain. One is the unknown. And I think what we have to focus on, just like I have a little pearl over here, I'm going to add that to my pearls. I have focus on what you can do, not what you can't do.
Exactly.
And we need to focus on what we do know.
Exactly. We need to focus on what we do know, and we need to focus on here and now. This has been a situation that has been extremely challenging in the way that every single day, it seems like the situation is completely different than yesterday, at least for us. That has decreased a little bit in the past week, but the first 2 weeks, we thought we were going to be here till April 13th. On March 17th, we thought we would be here until April 13th. The school was going to be closed or online until April 13th. Then 3 or 4 days later, we figured out, no, we'll be here till the 26th. And then a week later, we now know that we have no idea. We don't know when the airports are going to be open. We don't know when national flights are going to be open. So what has grounded me the most is I've been the sun comes out here around 6 a.m. but it starts becoming very bright like at 5:45. We're in the equator, so there's a lot of shine, right? So at around 5:45, I'm waking up naturally with the sun, and I'm meditating about 30 minutes every day with the sunrise, and that has really helped me get grounded and start the day and use all these different hats that I now need to do, and it has helped a lot.
I'm glad you brought up
here and now.
I'm glad you brought up meditation.
Yes.
Something that one of my favorite apps, and we've talked about this before, is called Brain Tap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a technology that you can have an app. They also have a headset. The reason I like it, because it brings in whole person health. It has it stimulates the ear points in Chinese medicine, which I'm a big acupuncture fan. And then it stimulates the eyes through a light therapy. And then it does the binaural beats, and it has a guided meditation. So it's my favorite app. I just actually, in January of this year, I did another type of brain neurofeedback that was kind of pricey. And then I realized, you know what? The Brain Tap I've been doing for the last 5 years since I had my accident, it's really similar and it's cheaper. So we'll put in the show notes, Brain Tap, and we'll give you a link that we can help you sign up for 10 or 15 days for free if you want to use it. But it's one of my goals. I actually plugged it in this morning by my bed so that I could use that. So I'm glad you brought up tools like that.
I'd say, Deepak Chopra's website is offering a 30 days or 21 days challenge with a hope meditation, and it's for free. So, there's a lot of different resources. People are helping in every way they can, right? There's a lot of free resources out there, and there's a lot of resources that we can use for getting grounded.
Well, it's kind of like tapping in here. I know some of you are tapping in almost every day, and I've got people that are saying they're listening afterwards because it's not the best time of day. And so we'll put that in the show notes. We'll put Deepak Chopra's free, Eleanor, I'm pointing to you. You can't see me, pointing to Eleanor, to do Deepak's. We'll put that in there too, his hope meditation, into the show notes as well. Eleanor, you've been doing a stellar job. Hasn't she been doing a stellar job? We'll give her a high five on that. This is a great time for you to ask any questions you have, or start to give some love to Dr. Carolina as we start to shift a little bit here from our conversation. I want to go back to anxiety, and one thing you mentioned was to give. And some people think they don't have anything to give. So help somebody figure out what the gift is. It could be mowing the yard.
So I'll give you examples right now from my practice, what people are doing. I told you already, I think it's specifically important to tell this story because everybody can do this. This person whom I've seen, unfortunately, when I came to Colombia, she was still in a very, very severe depression. She's been struggling with depression for a very long time, was laid off recently from one of the companies back there in Kansas City because the company was restructuring. And she has a skill because she's a writer, and she and I came up with the idea of her writing to her people, to her loved ones, and she's been writing letters to everybody in her life, and that's giving. For sure. Whenever you've received a letter, either handwritten or via email, it brings a smile if it's someone that you love and cares for you. So that's, we can give in many, many ways. You can give by smiling, you can give by loving, you can give by giving actual goods like we talked about, like, donating to the Red Cross or donating to the World Health organizations that are dealing with this pandemic, or to UNESCO, which is helping people be educated regardless of where we are, whether we're staying home or not, right? So that's, there's so many ways we can give. The other thing is for older people, if you know someone that's older and you know that they will be having that they will be at higher risk because of the pandemic about going to their grocery store. If you're going to go to the grocery store, you can get their groceries. And that's not, it doesn't take, it takes maybe 10 minutes more, so giving doesn't necessarily need to mean that you have to spend money or to give things. You can give your time, you can give your ears, you can listen to people. There's a lot, we talked about loneliness. There's a lot of people that need listening. You can give your smile, you can give your love. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that we could give, right? Yeah. So, and I really do believe that it distracts, when we are anxious, one of the tricks to get out of the anxiety loop is to distract the brain and the mind onto some other thing, right? To get busy, but not busy just to be busy, right? But busy into being productive in some way, and giving is a way of being productive too.
Well, think about your gifts. Whether maybe it's to mow the yard. We're doing a program with Young Women on the Move, which is in Wyandotte County, and they're they've got a big building, and now they're starting to make food, and people are coming to pick up food, and they're just trying to figure out how they give it. And then one of the gals there I was on a call with Emily, my other Eleanor. I got my 2 E's on both sides, and somebody said, what I really need is I need to get my lawnmower fixed, but no, I don't know who to call. And Emily's like, oh, my husband could fix your lawnmower. And then somebody was like, I need to do a yoga class. So you've got to be in conversation and community so you can figure out how to help the tribe thrive through this.
And I would say also part of being generous is being generous to ourselves, right, Michelle? And asking for help is not an easy thing. And it's not a very American thing to ask for help. But asking for help, if you need anything, there's people out there that can do it. You just said it. Somebody needed a lawnmower fixed. Somebody else knows how to do that. And we can figure it out. And maybe, we come out of this pandemic understanding that we're not alone. Now I'm going to show you something. About 3 weeks ago, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but about 3 weeks ago, I think it started in Germany. Kids were asked to draw a rainbow. Do you know about this, Michelle? Did I send you this? So kids were asked to draw a rainbow and paste it on a window or on their door, because as I said, there's a lot of more stringent rules in a lot of countries, like in ours. So my daughter, I don't know if you can see it. It says, "We are not alone." Up here, I guess the sun has faded it a little bit, but I think that's one of the take-home messages of this pandemic is we are definitely interconnected. That's one of the reasons we're getting infected, but we are also not alone, and that's one of the reasons we're going to be able to thrive after and during this.
That's one of the knowns, that we're not alone, unless you choose to be alone. Yeah, I want to go back to the asking for help. So if you're struggling to figure out what's your gift, you might actually just put out to your social channels or to your families. I don't know how you communicate. Like if I was sitting here twiddling my thumbs, wondering what could I do, I would post on social media, said, who needs help? And if it's something I can do, I'm happy to do it. If I can't do it, hopefully somebody else in my network can do it. So I think that's a reminder to look at it that way.
Right.
This is a great time to ask questions. There was a question right off of the very, very beginning from our friend, Dr. Maria. You guys have met before, which is great.
Yes.
How's your husband? Is he seeing a lot of COVID patients? Do you know?
Yes, he is. I mean, my husband doesn't see patients himself. He sees radiographs and CTs. He's a radiologist, but he specializes in lungs and heart. So that's all, he's seeing a lot. Initially, there was not a lot of work in the hospitals because a lot of the elective staff and a lot of the outpatient clinics have been closed. And, things have been open only for emergencies in the hospital. But definitely work has been increasing. And I'd say a good amount of what he's seen is COVID. But he was telling me the tally of all of St. Luke's health system. So that we're talking about St. Luke's Lee Summit, St. Luke's Plaza, St. Luke's South, all of that. The tally is 250 COVID patients, and my opinion of that is that that's not that much. You know, of course, if you're reading the radiographs, it is a lot, but in comparison to what we're seeing in New York and Spain and Italy and China, obviously, I think that Kansas City does far weathering these very well.
Well, we've had some of our leaders have kind of stepped up pretty fast. So.
Absolutely. I think the governor of Kansas has done a really good job at doing what needs to be done.
Well, we should send her that clip, Eleanor. Maybe a great idea to give her a little love. She's in the fire. So something to think about too that we've been talking about, Dr. Carolina, through the show is medicine. Everybody gives medicine or magic. And so I think it's important for us all to think, and we're going to put a social media post out there. What is the magic? What is the medicine you give really well? You know, so what's your medicine?
Huh.
And I don't mean medicine. I mean
get
medicine.
it. You know, initially I thought you were talking about medication, and now I get it. Wow, that's a very good question, Michelle. I think it's a combination of things. I think one is being present, fully present for everyone I know, but specifically for my patients, being fully present, having real ears for listening, trying to empathize for sure, and understanding that this human life can be hard for everyone. It's we are all in it together. It's not you come here with an illness and I'm here to cure you. Not at all. I think it's our shared common experience. I think that would be the essence of my medicine, the shared common experience.
Shared common experience. That is good. That's insightful. So we're going to start to wrap up the show. So I'd love to hear any of the extra love you'd like to share to Dr. Carolina. What is one of the gifts you've gotten out of quarantine life?
Wow, several. One, I kind of have I cook very often, but I've had to, my husband's a very good cook, so he does a lot of cooking too. I've had to cook a lot more, and I kind of have really found it to be an art in a way. I've had a little bit of time to do more photography, which is something that I love. So I guess, I've called it forced, slowed time, and it has been a good thing. And I also have been able to be with my mom for a good, for all this time. We've been here over a month, and we rarely get to do that, right? In the way that we're doing it. So that's definitely a true gift. The second thing I tell my kids all the time is this helps us all learn and grow our flexibility muscle. We have to have a flexibility muscle here. We're not at home. We don't have our usual things. We don't have everything that we need for school, for example, but we have to be flexible and figure it out.
That's a great quote.
Yes.
COVID is making us have, I don't know, how would you say that? We're going to quote this one.
COVID-19 is making us have a flexibility muscle or something like that. I don't know.
Good. We're going to quote you on that. And
okay.
You said something else before that. Did you get that other quote before that, Eleanor? You know me, I'm a quote nerd. You know that.
Yes.
There was one before that. We'll listen to the show and we'll capture it. Okay, so there's two gifts. Give me a third gift, and then we're going to start to wrap up the show.
I've had more moments of stillness and quiet.
When's the last time you had this much stillness?
Well, I wouldn't say I've had a lot, because I do have two kids around, 24/7, which I think they're pretty fed up with their mother by now. But I don't know. Maybe right before starting residency. So we're talking about 15 or 16 years ago, more, 18 years ago, 16 years ago. I had a little bit of time to slow down. So maybe it was up and coming. It was needed.
It was a gift. Definitely a gift.
Yes.
Well, I want to share with you. First of all, you've been a gift for this conversation today. Thanks for joining us on Rhythm and Resilience Motivational Monday. Of course, there's small changes that can lead to big shifts, even during a pandemic. Liz has great conversation. Thanks so much. Mark's. We're just so grateful that you're taking time from your staycation in Colombia to join us. I want to tell you how you inspire me. First of all, when I reach out to you, say yes, we get together for lunch. You were willing to take the risk, and I think a lot of people may not know that when before there's medicine, me against you, and that's no longer this way. And I think this is going to be a gift from COVID. It's going to even make us all closer as healthcare providers.
Absolutely.
But you were receptive, and then connecting with Dr. Maria, and I know you guys have become fast friends for many reasons. But here's the biggest reason how you inspire me is you really are dialed into your intuition. I remember, gosh, maybe 6 weeks ago. Do you remember 8 weeks ago when you out of the blue you sent me a text? Do you remember that?
Yes, I did.
And it was in a moment because I struggle like everybody else. It was a moment where I was struggling, and you were like, "Wait a minute, you struggle," and you were just—it was so gracious. So, and you inspire me the way you actually practice psychiatry different. That people love you. Your clients absolutely would go to the moon for you. And it's not just, let me give you a script. It's, let's talk through this.
Right. Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. I am so grateful for you and for everything that you and I have discussed thus far. I know that we will be doing great things.
We will be doing great things. To all of you, thanks for joining us on Rhythm and Resilience today. Tomorrow, we have Dr. Sean Kelter. He's actually one of my partners at Your Wellness Connection. He's going to be talking to us on Total Health Tuesday. And thanks for sharing. And hey, I'm sending you all big old heart hugs. I've got it figured out now. It's a heart. I've got it kind of, and then there we go, heart hugs. That's how I'm doing it these days. All right. Hey, go give your medicine out today. All right. Much love to all of you.